Harrison and continuing our series on waste. We're here today at Gnazzo's Food Center in Plainville, Connecticut to discuss the waste of food in the supermarket industry. And I'd like to introduce my good friend, Keith Gnazzo, owner of Gnazzo's Food Center here in Plainville, Connecticut. Keith,
Hi Bruce,
welcome.
how are you?
Thank you for having us
Thank
today.
you, yeah. Be glad to help. Hopefully I'll shed some light on the issues you're talking about.
I certainly hope so. That's why we're here. So what do you find to be the most challenging areas in preventing waste while you're running the supermarket? Is it produce, meats, fish?
Well, honestly, it's probably a bit of all of them. The challenging thing is trying to keep things full, and if your sales aren't quite up to where they are, there's always going to be waste in the industry, which we call shrink or waste. It's commonly known as shrink, but we expect this as part of the industry. I would say between the bakery and the produce department is where we're going to find the most shrink in our store. Because obviously produce, as a customer, you want to come in here and you do not want to get any produce that is damaged or spoiled. So we try to go through the department every day and pick off all the items that are not up to par. Again, it's hard to be perfect with it, so sometimes you might find things that aren't up to par on our produce stand, but we try to avoid that. And what we do with them is a couple things in the produce is number one, if it's just unsellable, we honestly just throw it in the garbage. That's number one. If it's, say, for example, like just a bruised pepper or some carrots that might be a little off color, or some vegetables, we do a lot of cooking in the store, so some of these items we are able to save by cooking them. For example, a pepper that's a little damaged, we can cut up, take out the bad parts and cook it and make sausage and peppers is a good example. Or if we have cabbage that is not up to par, we can go make some coleslaw over in the deli department. So there are some opportunities to save some shrink in produce. Other items, unfortunately, they do end up in the garbage. It's just part of the industry.
And, does any of the garbage find its way to farmers, or does it all end up in the landfill?
Honestly, we put it in our dumpster and it's picked up by our trash company, and wherever they dump it, I'm assuming in the landfill is where it ends up. Here's part of our food waste. Again, this gets emptied unfortunately, this gets 3/4 to filled up every day. Some of it is just, boxes that aren't cardboard and other materials, but usually it's a lot of food waste throughout the day and garbage. If we switch over to bakery, talking about the bakery a little bit, that shrink's a little different because in the bakery, obviously we put a lot of products out that we bake every day. Again, same principle as produce, we try to keep the items fresh, and we don't want to sell things that are out of code or out of date. So when the time comes, we take them off the shelf, and then we actually donate anything that we can to the Plainville Food Bank. Again, we put in a carriage every day, and they do come by and pick them up and do put it to good use from the Plainville Food Bank. We also have the privilege of a few of our vendors that donate their stale items, namely Thomas English Muffins and Joseph's Pita. He leaves his stales a week with us, also donating to the Plainville Food Bank. So it's still a challenge for us for our market for the bakery, but at least the bakery items are going to some useful issues there. So those two departments, the deli department in general now, most of the items are cold cuts and cheeses. We slice them on the counter. If we get down to the end of the loaves, they're called ends, but we're usually able to salvage those by selling them as ends. Some people actually buy the ends at a reduced cost. They do whatever with them, make macaroni and cheese, give them to their dogs. There's numerous of customers that do that. And again, some of the items we are able to use in our kitchen to cook. For example, cheese, we make quiche here in the store. So any kind of cheese that you get near the end of the loaf goes into quiche as one of the things. And ham ends, we make ham salad in the store. So there's, again, shrink in the deli department, but again, a lot of that's put to good use. About the shrink / waste in produce, and I said there are certain outlets we can for things that aren't up to par. So what do you have going right there?
Right here we got it seasonal, so we do it 2 to 3 times a week, 4 months out of the year, which is now. So everything we call out, we rehash and make fresh soup bunches, or we display them in the meat case besides produce, and it helps with the roast etc. So that's one item.
Travel to the meat department. Again, meat department, there's shrink also. Obviously, the number one, the trimmings off the beef from the fat, but that you cannot use. We have barrels that a company comes and picks them up every week, a rendering company. Just to step back a bit, in the old days, they actually used to pay us to pick it up, but things have changed. Now we pay them to pick up the fat. We call it the fat, but they come once a week, they bring the barrels, and as far as I know, they use it to make cosmetics. I don't know if they still do. I know they used to. They used to boil down that and make cosmetics out of it. So again, that it would not go in the landfill. But like I said, the industry's changed. That things now we actually pay them to take it away. They used to pay us to take it away. So it's just one little change in the industry. Other items like the actual meat that we don't sell. Again, we go through our case every morning. Anything that's not up to par, we pull it out. Some things again can move over to the kitchen and get cooked. Some things, if they're not up to par, we have to dispose of them. And that actually goes into the same barrels that the company picks up and takes away. For example, these things we make in the deli, we keep them we make them, anything we make today can stay out today and tomorrow, but after that, we have to dispose of it. And again, unfortunately, we do throw these out every week because you cannot be perfect. Again, there's a point where you have to have shelves that aren't empty versus shelves that are too full. There's an in-between, so you want to look presentable, but you don't want to have too much product, so that's kind of goes into that shrink equation. You know, the old saying, no one wants to buy the last loaf of bread on the shelf, no one wants to buy the last sandwich up there. So we always have to have enough product, hopefully not too much product. So again, unfortunately, there's no outlet for these, and we talk about donating to the food bank, but they cannot take outdated perishable items. They can only take outdated dry items. It's their policy, which is for food safety.
As dogs earlier, do you sell the bones from the meat so that people can give it to their pets?
Yes and no. We actually, most of our product now is boneless, so we actually buy separate bones for dogs. We actually buy the bones frozen and put them in a meat case for their dogs. So again, the old days when you had to break down all the beef, you'd have tons of bones. Now most of our product comes in already boneless. It's in a box, so the dog bones are actually come in ready to go. We just put them in a tray and sell them to the people for their dogs.
During the course of a week, what quantity of items or products would you say is going into waste?
Oh boy, that's a tricky percentage. I would say by department, again, the highest percentage would be the bakery, because the bakery is, again, with most items you're only leaving on the shelf 1 or 2 days, and it goes down to that adage again about you can't be too empty because people think you're out of business. So bakery is probably over 10% of our items are unsalable. Produce, I would say you're probably in the best estimation 3 to 5% range of items that are that you lose. Deli is probably in that range also, maybe a shade higher because of the packaged items that we have dates on. And meat, I would say 3 to 5% is a good range in my estimation.
Shelving presents a problem in that customers come in expecting to find the shelves completely full with no empty spaces. How do you keep up with that, and how do you try and market things so that you can change the consumer's expectations?
Well, it's a good question. Number one is, again, you're right, you don't want to have an empty shelf, same thing until you look like you're out of business. So what we try to do most nights is we call it blocking our shelves, or pull the product forward, so we don't have to have a shelf that's completely packed back to front, because as we get experienced in a business, you kind of understand how many items of each you sell every week. Just an example, say my gentleman who does the orders knows he maybe sells 3 or 4 bottles of these per week, so there's no need to have like 30 of these on the shelves because it's just excess inventory. So what we do, we just pull the shelves forward so it makes it look full, and the items that move a little faster, we have a little more items on the shelf. So we try to create a balance. And also in the grocery department now, there's most items have a date on them now, which they never used to. So they have a sell-by date. So you also have to be cautious of that issue now in the grocery department, as the dairy department, as the frozen department. Everything has becoming with dates now, which is, again, it's advantageous for the consumer. So we also have to be conscious of that as we're stocking the shelves, and again, being more careful about excess inventory, because again, that could go into waste, more shrink or more waste. So again, that is another challenge that we do our best. Another department which actually there's quite a bit of shrink is the dairy department.
You were going to tell us about yogurt and
dairy.
Outdated
Yes,
product.
so challenges, the dairy department, I was just saying everything is coded in the whole store, dated with a sell by date, but the dairy department obviously has the shortest dates because it's fresh product. Namely, milk has about the shortest date. We have about 2 weeks available on milk to sell, which usually, again, we have to be shrewd on our ordering, so we don't order too much, so we don't have milk that becomes outdated. And nowadays, the milk companies used to take back the outdated milk and process it into sour cream, cottage cheese. Now they do not take the milk back anymore. So if we have any extra milk, we just have to throw it out. It's not that common because of the good dates and hopefully our shrewd ordering, but it does happen. But one area that is of concern in the dairy is the yogurt department. As you can see, we are a small store, and there are the bigger stores that have even more variety, but we do have almost 2 full cases of yogurt variety. So couple that with the dates, you're going to run into trouble with sell-by dates. As you can see here, this is a milk crate full of yogurt that has gone past the expiration date. This one is, well, today's date, January 12th. We took it off today because it's going to be out of code today. But this is an ongoing process we have to do every day / every week, is watch all our dates in the yogurt department. As our person stocks them, we have to make sure they rotate and check the dates. This actually has a good date, February 9th. That's unusual. If I looked around, February 18th. Some of the yogurt does have a good date, but some does not. But again, it's an ongoing issue, and what we do with the yogurt now, we actually give partial credit from our supplier, but they do not take the product back. We have to empty the containers and throw the product out. So it still is food waste. And again, it's food waste and a lot of extra labor. But again, we try to be, as I'm sure most stores do, very stringent about the dates because we do not want to sell outdated product to our customers. Unfortunately, with the numerous amount of items at our store, it does happen times when we do have product on the shelf that is past expiration date, not intentionally. So again, that's an ongoing challenge / process in the grocery industry that we face, and dairy is probably the trickiest with the dates.
Ancillary problem in the environmental area occurs with plastic, and so many of the products come into the store today in plastic containers as opposed to other types of packaging. Is there any way that the retail food industry is trying to influence the market so that, or the packaging industry, so that they use other products than plastic?
I believe they are. I don't think it's reached to ours yet. I think they are in theory and in certain areas. We're still getting a lot of items in plastic, as you said. As you know, and you guys are probably well aware, some of the states are starting to ban plastic bags on the checkout. I think California already has. I think Massachusetts is in the process. Sorry. I know Big Y Foods announced they will ban plastic bags from their operations effective, I believe, next year. And we will consider also, I mean, again, saving the environment. They say the plastic bags do not break down at all. They just go into the landfill. The challenge becomes the cost of the other bags is more than double of a plastic bag, so it adds cost to the supermarket. But again, we do want to try to be environmentally friendly. So there's other options. Is many people are starting to bring their own bags shopping, and a lot of stores are giving incentive for people that bring their own bags to shop, so they save on the plastic and the paper bags. That's one issue. Packaging, like in our meat department, is a lot of still get the foam trays. They are not biodegradable at this point either. They haven't come up with another solution for us at this point. And you'll see most stores, they do have the foam trays in their meat departments. And what other areas can we talk about with plastic? A lot of the bottles and jars throughout the store are plastic, and they developed that from glass, which is, I guess, cheaper. I would assume that's why I went that route, and safer for the people, but not safer for the environment. So I don't know where we'll go next. I don't know at this point. And then in recycling, again, things that have changed again in the years. Those are all going back to the recycling center, so that's not plastic waste. So that's an improvement. even though you don't want to get me going on the bottle bill because I'm totally against it, because everyone's curbside recycling now, so I feel they should be doing this at their home, because every town and every state is in Connecticut is curbside recycling. This is a big nuisance for us because we have to handle the machines and the mess. When again, if they could eliminate it, I think people are trained enough now that they would put their recycling at their home. It's just, I feel strongly about that. Again, I know that will never pass, not to get on my high horse, because the state makes extra money on the bottle bill, so it'll never be done away with. But this is a huge issue for us and a mess for us. It kind of ruins my whole front entrance to my store because it's the big mess of the bottles. And again, in the beginning it was totally necessary because this was a huge issue with people throwing plastic and littering. But now I think, again, most people are trained that they would put their plastic and recycling at their home because it's getting picked up by the recyclers anyway.
That leads us to the final question, which is the bottom line. In your opinion, is the food industry producing more waste or less waste than it did in prior years?
I would say, I'd almost say less, because people are coming up with other solutions to help with the waste. We think we've been more conscious of it. Again, with this, I know I keep going back to the plastic bags now, so that's going to be huge. And I think it will be nationwide at some point. I don't know how soon, but I think it will lead to that. And I think that's a good thing if it does. I think more and more stores have the outlets of the kitchens. Like that's evolved. I mean, 10 years ago we didn't have a kitchen here. Now most supermarkets have full kitchens and full catering, which again gives outlets for this shrink, especially out of produce department, meat department, even the deli department. So that saves shrink. That's definitely evolved, and I think it's going to keep evolving. So that would hopefully create less shrink. I don't know how you can, for bakery department, I don't think there's any way around the shrink, but again, at least that's going to good use. That's going to usually to food banks. I think most stores do that, donate to the food bank. And I think most like bread companies, like Wonder Bread and Freihoffer Bread, I think they usually have thrift stores, and then they donate after that. They donate to food share. So I think it's getting a little better because people are more conscious of it. I really do. That's my belief, is that it's getting better and it's going to get better.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's been great to be welcomed to this beautiful store here in Plainville, Connecticut, and to converse with you about food waste in the retail food industry. Thank you,
well, thanks.
Pete. Thank you so much.
Hopefully I was helpful. Thank you.